Welcome. We're going to talk about Heated Rivalry, the show, this hockey romance in just a moment.
This is such a bad idea.
What is?
What I want you to pay attention to in this conversation, I really love this conversation. What I want you to pay attention to is we talked to Lainey Lui, and Lainey is like, this show is horny and it's really great and it's really wonderful, and I love that. But then we get to Brock McGillis, and he's one of the first openly gay pro players. And the thing that he says in our conversation is he goes, you know what? I actually kind of find the show a little bit triggering. It kind of reminded me of a period of time in my life where my life kind of looked a little bit like that. It tells the story of like sneaking someone that he was dating through the fire escape. And I just found that story just so fascinating. So there's a lot to talk about. Heated Rivalry, get into it. Lainey Lui is back on the show. Lainey, good to see you, pal. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm great. I'm excited to talk about this. And Brock McGillis is here. Brock played hockey in the Ontario Hockey League, then in the United States, and then in Europe. He's one of the first openly gay pro players. And now he works with younger players to change hockey culture. Brock, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Listen, welcome. I'm excited to get into this. I'm delighted by the expression on Lainey's face. But before we get into the conversation, the premise of the show, pretty straightforward. You got two great rookie players. They are arch rivals on the ice, and then off the ice, they are lovers. We've got Shane Hollander. He's from Ottawa. And then you've got Ilya Rozanov from Russia. The flirting at first is a little bit subtle, and then it subtly isn't. Here, I'm going to play you a scene from the first episode, and you're not going to hear a lot of talking, shall we say. You'll hear other sounds. So your discretion, up to you.
Stop.
Was that bad?
No. Opposite. It's too much, too good. Is your first time with the man? You? No.
Really?
Really?
Another player?
I delighted in watching Lainey close her eyes like it was like ASMR. Like that's what I was just watching just a moment ago. Lainey, I described the show as sexy. Does that begin to even cover it? How sexy is the show?
I think that sexy is true, but it almost seems too muted of a word. It's horny. It is so lusty and freaky. Like, I mean, they get freaky and it's great. It is really unabashedly, unapologetically hot. It delivers on the heated in the title.
The word heated is a big promise. I think the idea of actually delivering on that promise, that's a significant thing. You wouldn't describe this as the most, shall we say, plot-driven show, but what do we need to know about these characters and the things that they're working through?
I wouldn't say it's plot heavy, but it's character heavy. And listen, I'm not trying to diminish the fact that, and none of the talent involved is either diminishing the fact that, yes, the sex is there, it's lusty, it's horny, but it is character driven. These are two people who have pressures, individual and unique pressures, and then they fall in love. They're trying to manage their emotions. So 100% the character is there. It's not just, like, let me order pizza as a device to get two people to get two people to bang.
Yeah.
There is development there. And the acting is really good. Everything is so perfect and excellent, related to this show, and including in the love scenes.
But before I get to Brock, just for a quick moment, can you just flesh out a little bit of like what's happening with these pressures, with Shane and with Ilya? What are these pressures that they're dealing with off the ice?
Shane is, your typical Canadian hockey star. Wholesome, lots of opportunity, and he is coming in with the weight of expectation. So if you need a comp, this is Shane, like a Sidney Crosby, okay?
Okay, got it.
And Ilya Rozanov is like Russian, so, your stereotypical qualities would be he's more aggressive, he's more assertive, he's more cocky. And, the two of them, it's like your basic trope in romance novels. You've got the quieter one and the brash one, and they have an electric attraction to each other. And the pressures for both of them is, number one, to perform, of course, to meet those expectations. And then for Ilya, he's coming in with family pressures. his father and his family are all relying on him. So I think that makes it more compelling and deeper than just, again, ring, ring, call for pizza. Someone shows up at the door. Let's go.
Brock, it's rare that someone makes a TV show set in the world that you are familiar with. What did it feel like for you watching the show?
It was interesting because while you might say they're like, it isn't really plot driven, I lived that life. Like I felt like, Shane. I literally I dated a guy for 3 years without a soul knowing.
So you're playing hockey and you were dating another man and nobody else knew.
Professionally and university hockey, he came and stayed with me in Montreal when I was at school, and I snuck him in through the fire exit. That was real to me. It was triggering. I thought I had done enough therapy that I'd worked through all my stuff. And then I'm watching that, and I'm sitting in a hotel room in Calgary right now, and I almost had to turn it off. I'm like,
oh wow,
that's me.
Tell me about that idea of watching a show that feels that familiar. What does that do to you as you're watching and saying, hey, that's exactly the life that I lived?
I talk about my life for a living, and I thought I was over it. It was pretty overwhelming. It was daunting. It was sad to think, I know we see those two together and it becomes sort of like this, oh, it's hot or it's this, it's that. But neither of them can truly be themselves. Truly, it takes years for them to get there within the first 2 episodes, and we still don't know if they truly become themselves. It's heartbreaking, it's heart-wrenching, and it's real because that is the reality for 99% of men's professional team. Athletes on teams, they can't be themselves if they're LGBTQ+, and they fear their career, they fear everything that'll come with that, the ramifications of it, and it's tragic. And today in 2025 still.
There's a I guess a distinction between the way that both of you sort of watch the show, because I think when Lainey, when you and I watch a show, what we are watching for is the world of a whirlwind romance that is kind of has all these different pressures. And we also got to talk about the fact that hockey romance in general has just become this gigantic genre. You were talking about this, I think when you were on the show last week, about this idea of walking into, a bookstore and seeing tables upon tables of books that are sort of hockey romances. And of course, this show is an adaptation of Nova Scotia writer's book, Heather Reid's novel. What do you think it is about hockey that makes it sort of a setting for romance that people want to sort of maybe turn to, Lainey?
Okay, well, first of all, Canada, don't come for me. But hockey is a not very diverse sport. And in terms of all the professional sports, it's not as popular, right? That's a fact. It's very popular in Canada, but globally, especially in North America, it's not up there with your Major League Baseballs and the NFL. And so I think even the way hockey is covered in media and pop culture allows for a lot of mystery. We know a lot about NBA players. We know a lot about NFL players because the media relentlessly covers those sports. But hockey, again, with its lower popularity, allows for a lot of unknown. We can't fill in the blanks with personality and their private lives. And hockey players, no offense, aren't out there as big personalities.
Brock is pointing in agreement.
Brock.
Brock is yes, correct. Yeah.
So hockey players aren't coming in with a ton of personality. So as a writer for Rachel Reid and other romance novelists, they get to fill in the color for this sport. And then the way the sport is played, the way it looks it's kind of like the Eyes Wide Shut of professional sports. Everybody, it's like a masquerade party. Everybody's walking around with a mask. You can't see a person's face when they're playing. So, players on the ice can walk up to somebody and they're or skate up to somebody and be like, oh, I don't know who you are under all this baggage and accoutrements. And so I think there's natural eroticism in that mystery, that detachment, where you unpeel the layers, right? Unpeel the layers metaphorically. You get romance. You get chemistry. I think that's part of the reason.
I see. I love that idea of like hockey as a sort of like an arena for romance because it has all this sort of contained mystery that, so many things that we don't know. And then Brock, like some of this is mystery that you can shed light on because there is that idea, that's the fantasy. And then there's sort of the reality that you live, right? So like when you played pro, mostly in the OHL, there's never still been an openly gay player in the NHL. Describe the reality of like for players who make it to that level, what are the things that they're dealing with?
You're forced to conform. So to Lainey's point, you don't show personality. Like I can pick out a hockey player anywhere I go. They dress the same, talk the same, walk the same. Every NHL player gives this. No, it's true. The amount of Birkenstocks and White Sox I see across this country is revolting. They give the same interview.
Yeah, they do.
Pucks in deep. Shots on net. It's like you leave your personality at home that day, dog. Like what's going on here? But it's true, and they do, and they have big personalities, but they don't show it. I think the other thing too is hockey is 40. The hockey fans are 42% women and 20% LGBTQ plus in America, and people don't realize that. So that's over the majority. So they're able, and if you don't, to Lainey's point, you don't know anything about them, and they have to conform to this rigid norm: dress same, talk same, walk same, be basically the good little Canadian boy. If you don't conform to that, you're othered. You're a weirdo. The big personalities are kind of shunned, and having these people in this niche arena of sorts, I guess no pun intended, in America who see this as theirs because in Canada, the hockey players are the big dogs. In America, they're not. So everyone else can take it as their own.
Right.
And they are. And combine that with the fact that, they are forced to conform and we don't see them, but we know they have these wicked bodies. They're so fit, traditionally good looking guys. It's perfect for this.
When you watch a show like this, Brock, I guess like that's what I'm curious about because like when we sort of think about hockey in general as a world, like it's a world that feels a little bit impervious to change, or at least like it sort of takes a really long time to sort of change that particular environment. And what you're talking about is kind of like a culture where it is difficult for a lot of hockey players to share their sexuality. And then a show like this comes through the mix, right? And we talk about how hot it is and how fun it is to watch a show. And Lainey sort of talks about how much of it feels like you're living in a fantasy, and that's great. But when you sort of think about a show like this that's landing like this, and you're seeing this portrayal of a loving sexual relationship between two men in hockey, does a show like this have any kind of potential impact to change the real life world of hockey? Like, what's your read on the interaction between the fantasy we get to watch on TV and then also the real world?
I think what it might do is attract more people to the sport. And then at that point, I think, hopefully more people create more content that aren't for who they see as the traditional hockey fan. Because all the content normally is made for, that, and I say this with respect, I don't think it's a negative thing, straight white bros. And I think this is showing that we can make content for other people and it'll be popular. And I think that will attract more people to the sport and hopefully up those numbers from 42% women and 20% LGBTQ plus. What I don't think it'll do is break down the locker room culture that exists. Maybe the queer kid or adult or bi person who's not sharing who they are in those spaces will feel a little more seen, maybe a little more safe. Maybe they'll get triggered like I did.
Oh gosh.
I don't know, but I think none of it hurts. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, I think like the idea of like this being available, not hurting, I think is a significant point. Lainey, are you more likely to watch hockey now that you've watched Heated Rivalry? You're like, you know what? Let me Let me pay a little bit closer attention to some of the drama on and off the ice now that I've seen.
My honest answer is no.
Okay.
Hockey is not my sport.
Yeah.
Like baseball is my sport.
Yeah.
That said, to Brock's point, I think that if over time the culture of hockey can change because of books like this, because of stories like this, then I might be more inclined to pay attention to hockey. I think that, listen, it's been an ongoing conversation in this country for a few years now about the parts of hockey culture that are not working and that are alienating. And so I love the existence of this show because I love that it's existing in the same timeline. Like, I'm seeing ads for Heated Rivalry during hockey games, or my husband is, at least he's telling me, on TSN.
Yeah.
And I love that hockey culture can't go on social media now and see it in their face. That's what I love. I love that, like, you know, on the comments in social media for hockey teams and whatever, there are people who are fans of this show and this book going on being like, hey, watch Heated Rivalry. That to me is fun and funny because I think that they're being confronted with how people want the sport to look and be and how it should thrive.
I think whatever level of change you can maybe introduce, it begins with saying hockey needs to be, at least its face needs to be presented as wider than it has been comfortable presenting for the last few years. I think that's sort of maybe the beginning. Brock, you look like you had something to add. It got like 30 seconds left.
I just did an Instagram takeover for the Leafs, and every comment was the original Shane and Ilya, and it was just nonstop, and
that's
like,
how it starts.
Yeah. And it kept, anytime there's a homophobic comment, people would just comment back with like Shane and Ilya or something. Heated Rivalry starts on Crave, blah, blah, blah. And it warmed my heart. Like every post I make about changing this culture, and I'm traveling around the country doing it now, is there's people on TikTok just talking about Heated Rivalry and calling me the OG. I feel like Unk.
I mean, just the idea that like that's like they're coming to you with this, I think is actually just not only incredibly lovely. I think it's also just like a good signal of like something's changing and it feels like people are paying attention to it. So I just wanted to say thank you to both of you for being here. I don't think either one of you is Unk to me, and so thank you so much for coming on the show today. This has been lovely. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Lainey Lui is eTalk's senior correspondent and the founder of LaineyGossip.com. She's in Toronto. And Brock McGillis is a former professional hockey player and one of the first openly gay pro players. He now works with younger players to change hockey culture. By the way, the show Heated Rivalry is made by Jacob Tierney. He's also the creator of Shoresy and Letterkenny. And he recently talked to Tom Power. You can find that conversation over on the Q podcast feed.